The traders who last treat themselves like athletes. They understand that performance degrades without maintenance. They schedule breaks. They step away from screens. They take days off without guilt. Because they understand something most never learn. Missing a trade is insignificant. Missing years of opportunity due to burnout is catastrophic. Longevity also requires a healthy relationship with money. Money is a tool, not an emotional regulator. If trading profits determine your self-worth, your peace, or your identity, you are already in danger. Survivors decouple income from validation. They do not trade to feel powerful. They do not trade to escape insecurity. They do not trade to impress anyone. They trade to execute an edge. This emotional maturity is what allows them to size properly. Overleverage is rarely a technical mistake. It is an emotional one. Fear of missing out. Fear of being behind. Fear of insignificance. Longevity requires confronting these fears honestly. The market amplifies whatever is unresolved inside you. Trading will expose your impatience, your need for control, your intolerance for uncertainty, your relationship with loss. If you do not work on these internally, no strategy will save you. This is why journaling is a cornerstone of long-term performance. Not just trade journaling, psychological journaling, recording thoughts, recording emotions, recording patterns. The trader who lasts is a student of themselves. They know their triggers. They know their weaknesses. They know when they are not fit to trade, and they act accordingly. Self-awareness is a competitive edge. Another element of longevity is adaptability without chaos. Markets evolve. Liquidity shifts. Participants change. Technology advances. Rigid traders break. Chaotic traders implode. Survivors adapt slowly and deliberately. They do not abandon frameworks at the first drawdown. They analyze. They test. They refine. They distinguish between variance and failure. Most traders quit strategies during normal statistical drawdowns. Survivors understand distribution. They know that losing streaks do not invalidate an edge. Emotional reactions do. Longevity also requires boundaries. Clear separation between trading life and personal life. The market should not follow you into bed. It should not dictate your mood at dinner. It should not consume your identity. Traders who live and breathe the market without balance burn out emotionally. The survivors have lives outside charts. They maintain relationships. They pursue interests. They build meaning beyond trading. This psychological diversification protects them. When trading is your only source of fulfillment, losses become unbearable. When trading is one component of a full life, losses are manageable. Peak performance requires emotional resilience, not obsession. Another overlooked factor is humility. Markets punish arrogance slowly and thoroughly. The trader who believes they have figured it out stops learning, stops reviewing, stops respecting risk. Longevity belongs to those who remain humble even after success. They assume they can be wrong. They prepare for adverse scenarios. They never believe they are invincible. They respect uncertainty. This humility is what keeps them cautious during winning streaks. Most accounts are blown after periods of success, not failure. Success breeds overconfidence. Overconfidence breeds negligence. Negligence breeds disaster. Survivors never stop managing risk, regardless of recent performance. They do not scale recklessly. They do not loosen rules. They do not increase frequency impulsively. They grow slowly. Another pillar of longevity is patience with capital growth. Compounding is powerful, but fragile. Small mistakes early destroy exponential growth. Survivors protect compounding by avoiding catastrophic losses. They understand that the first goal is survival. The second is consistency. The third is growth. Skipping steps invites ruin. Longevity also demands intellectual honesty. If something is not working, survivors admit it. They do not blame the market. They do not blame manipulation. They do not blame external forces endlessly. They ask hard questions. Is my risk appropriate? Is my edge real? Is my execution disciplined? Is my expectation realistic? This self-inquiry prevents stagnation. Another critical factor is time away from markets. Peak performance is cyclical. You cannot be sharp every day of every year. Survivors accept this. They reduce size during low-focus periods. They take breaks during mental fatigue. They respect personal seasons. They understand that forcing performance leads to mistakes. Rest is a performance strategy. Finally, longevity requires redefining success. Success is not the biggest win, not the highest monthly return, not the most social media validation. Success is still trading after 20 years with capital intact, confidence intact, and mental health intact. Success is calm execution, repeatable processes, sustainable income, predictable behavior. The traders who last are not the loudest. They are not the most visible. They are not chasing attention. They are quietly compounding. And that is the irony. The market does not reward brilliance. It rewards discipline. It does not reward intensity. It rewards endurance. If you want to sustain peak performance for decades, you must stop trying to conquer the market. You must learn to coexist with it. Respect its uncertainty. Manage your risk. Protect your psychology. Build systems. Preserve capital. Preserve yourself. Because the real edge is not in the chart. It is in your ability to show up tomorrow with clarity, restraint, and patience. Year after year. Cycle after cycle. That is the longevity of a trader. And that is how careers are built, not blown. If this perspective challenged the way you think about trading, reflect on it deeply. Longevity is not built in moments of excitement, but in thousands of disciplined decisions no one ever sees. At Wealth Nest Trade Hub Global, the focus is not hype, shortcuts, or illusions. It is about mastery, sustainability, and thinking beyond the next trade. If you are serious about lasting in the markets, not just participating briefly, stay connected. The market will always be there. The real question is whether you will be. There is also a deeper layer to longevity that few traders ever articulate, yet every long-term survivor understands intuitively. Your relationship with uncertainty determines your lifespan in the market. Most people are conditioned to seek certainty, clear answers, predictable outcomes, immediate feedback. The market offers none of these consistently. And so, traders who demand certainty suffer quietly. They hesitate at valid entries because outcomes are unknown. They exit early because discomfort rises. They override rules because ambiguity feels threatening. Survivors reframe uncertainty. They do not see it as danger. They see it as the cost of opportunity. They accept that discomfort is not a signal to act. It is a condition of participation. This acceptance reduces internal conflict. When you stop fighting uncertainty, your mind becomes quieter. When your mind becomes quieter, execution improves. When execution improves, consistency follows. Longevity grows from this internal peace. Another trait of long-lasting traders is that they develop a long memory for risk and a short memory for emotion. They remember drawdowns clearly. They remember how quickly confidence can evaporate. They remember how one careless decision can undo months of progress. But they do not dwell emotionally on losses. They extract lessons, then release the emotional charge. This balance prevents both recklessness and paralysis. They are cautious without being fearful, confident without being arrogant. This equilibrium is rare and fragile. It is built slowly, often through painful experience. Longevity also requires resisting the temptation to constantly optimize. Optimization sounds intelligent. In practice, it often introduces fragility. Endless tweaking creates overfitting. Overfitting creates instability. Instability destroys confidence. Survivors understand that a robust system is not the most precise one. It is the one that survives imperfect execution. They accept small inefficiencies in exchange for reliability. They prefer approaches that work reasonably well across many conditions rather than perfectly in a narrow window. This mindset protects them during regime shifts. Another critical dimension of sustaining peak performance is energy management. Time management is secondary. You can have hours available and still perform poorly if your energy is depleted. Survivors structure their days around peak cognitive hours. They trade when focus is highest. They analyze when clarity is strongest. They rest when fatigue appears. They do not force productivity. They respect their limits. This self-regulation prevents cumulative exhaustion. And cumulative exhaustion is one of the silent killers of trading careers. Longevity also depends on how a trader relates to mistakes. Mistakes are inevitable. Repeating them is optional. Survivors do not shame themselves for errors. Shame clouds judgment. They approach mistakes clinically. What happened? Why did it happen? What rule failed? What safeguard is needed? They turn emotional pain into structural improvement. Over time, this process reduces error frequency, not because they become perfect, but because systems absorb human weakness. This is how longevity is engineered. Another overlooked aspect is acceptance of mediocrity during certain phases. Not every year will be exceptional. Not every month will feel rewarding. Survivors allow themselves to be average at times. They do not force brilliance when conditions are unfavorable. They downshift. They preserve capital. They preserve confidence. They wait. This patience keeps them alive when others self-destruct trying to force performance. Peak performance across decades is cyclical. High-performance phases alternate with consolidation phases. Survivors respect both. They do not confuse slow periods with failure. They understand that restraint is also a skill. Another essential factor is narrative control. Every trader tells themselves a story about what is happening. I'm on a hot streak. I'm losing my edge. The market has changed. Survivors are careful with narratives. They do not dramatize short-term fluctuations. They anchor narratives in data, not emotion. They review statistics, not feelings. This prevents psychological spirals. Longevity depends on staying grounded in reality, not interpretation. There is also the issue of ego reinvention. Over decades, traders must periodically shed old versions of themselves. The trader you are at year 2 should not be the trader you are at year 10. Survivors evolve. They let go of identities built around aggression, speed, or bravado. They become calmer, slower, more selective. They trade less as they age, not more. This maturity is often misunderstood as loss of edge. In reality, it is refinement. They have learned that fewer, higher quality decisions outperform constant activity. Longevity also requires protecting curiosity without letting it become restlessness. Survivors stay intellectually engaged. They study market history. They review macro shifts. They understand participant behavior, but they do not jump from method to method. They integrate new understanding into existing frameworks. This continuity preserves confidence. Another dimension of long-term success is resilience to external shocks. Life will interfere. Illness, family responsibilities, financial stress, unexpected disruptions. Survivors plan for this. They reduce risk when distracted. They step away when focus is compromised. They do not demand peak performance during personal turbulence. They prioritize stability. This flexibility allows them to return intact. Longevity is not about rigidity. It is about intelligent adjustment. Finally, the longest-lasting traders develop a profound respect for time. They do not rush growth. They do not chase milestones. They do not measure themselves against others. They understand that trading is one of the few professions where patience directly translates into advantage. Time allows learning to compound. Time allows discipline to solidify. Time allows capital to grow. But only if you survive. And survival is not passive. It is actively choosing restraint over impulse, structure over emotion, process over outcome, again and again. This is the hidden discipline behind decades of performance. This is why the traders who last are rarely the ones you hear about early. They are not impressive in the beginning. They are persistent. And persistence, guided by discipline, is what the market ultimately rewards. Longevity is not glamorous. It is quiet, uncelebrated, often misunderstood. But it is the foundation upon which all meaningful trading success is built. And without it, nothing else matters. And there is one final dimension that completes the picture of longevity: